like hours.
Uh-huh.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the JoJo Show. And I always butcher your name. I'm so sorry. We're with Malaika today. And so she's going to talk and we're going to read poems. And she has something really cool up her sleeve she's going to do, which is fascinating. So let us begin.
I just want to thank you, John, for having me on the JoJo Show. And also, just it's so good to see you again and to catch up, with each other.
Well,
I've missed seeing you weekly.
Yes, I have too. And I'm so excited you were able to come on and you had a moment with your busy life with your farm and all that wonderful stuff you do. So I'm honored. It's my honor to get to have you be a guest. And yeah, I've missed you too. And it's so good to see you and talk and be able to do this. So, and thank you.
Yeah, no, it's, I love being at your house because I always get to see new animals.
Oh yeah, Mojo's in here.
I got to see Mojo.
Mojo, he's in a very affectionate, loving mood. He's 15 and he's grumpy, but occasionally he feels like a puppy again. And today's the day. He's all kissy and running around. So
he's a love bug today. No puppies in the house?
Huh?
Are you puppy free right now? No puppies?
Yeah, we don't have any puppies, but we do have a new dog. Someone dumped, you just dropped them off and they found we're not exactly sure where, but we opened our door one day and there was, he's a pointer. And he's like brown and white, but he looks like someone splashed him with mud. He's adorable. And we've had him for a little bit, but his name's Splash because he looks like he runs through. But he was there, and so we just like, come on in.
Yeah, no, strays find the people that have. I mean, it's almost like you have a sign outside. We get a lot here.
We take all animals.
Same, rabbits.
No, if it's a need, I'm like open arms, open doors.
Yeah, I want to put it out to the universe that if ducks want to come my way, I'd be so happy.
Yeah, and he's
my favorite animal.
And he's learned real fast too. Like he's a spoiled little brat already. It didn't take him long. And
great name, Splash.
Yeah, and he thinks he owns the bed. So yeah, but they grow so fast too. So, oh my Lord, like when we got him, he was like a little thing, and now he's like tripled in size. And he's gonna be a big dog anyhow, because pointers are pretty big.
I was gonna say, I don't know much about pointers, so I don't know how big they get.
So we took him to the vet to get his shots, like on day 2 we had him, and the vet told us, well, he's a pointer, he looks just like it and stuff. So, but they're lovely, friendly dogs, and they're smart but stubborn. So they'll listen to you if they want to. They know what's going on, but if they feel like doing it.
Okay, that's kind of like the donkeys in the equine world, because donkeys just have opinions, and if they think that you're wrong, well, not gonna do it. And they get a bad reputation as stubborn, but I honestly think it's about self-preservation. You have to kind of earn that relationship.
Yeah. And it's like, he's like, I know I did that earlier, but I'm laying down right now, so ask me later.
That's not on my schedule. I love the fact my donkey, what he does is he takes his food bin and he puts it in his mouth and shakes it like he's starving. He's so round. He looks like a barrel that has little peg legs. And he's walking around with his food dish begging.
And that's so funny. And Splash, he thinks every time the water's in the bowl, he has to drink it all. And when it's empty, he's going to die of dehydration. And he will literally drink water all day. We have to fill the bowl up like this much.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like it's a regular big giant bowl. He'll just stand there and drink it all. So now we have to like every hour or so fill up like this much. But yeah, that's been that way since we've got him.
I almost wonder if that's like survival though, John, because if part of his background is deprivation, I mean, if I hadn't had access to fluids or food when I saw it, I would make use of it. I mean, it's kind of how I am with chips, you know?
Yeah.
I don't get them very often, but when I do, I eat the whole darn thing. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it could go away. There may never be another bag of chips.
Yeah, and sometimes, sometimes they're like $3.50 a bag, and you just don't have that extra money. So you're like, I got it, they're mine.
Exactly. My daughter bought me a whole can of Pringles, and the reason why it's on my mind is because she gave it to me yesterday, and I was just gonna like eat it and then keep it throughout the week. It's already gone.
Oh, Pringles are so good.
They are so good.
And the one chip where you're not gonna get a half bag of air.
Yes.
It's gonna be, it's that much. It's filled up.
Exactly. There's no empty space. It's like whole. Yes. So when she handed it to me, I was like, "You are such an awesome daughter."
Yeah, I love you so much.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. What flavor were they?
Huh?
What flavor were they?
Oh, they were just plain. I actually like just plain Pringles. That's like my favorite.
Because they have like 100 different flavors now, and
I
they
know.
come in extra crunchy and wavy now and everything. So
Now, if I'm gonna do flavored chips, I want to go to Zapp's, like voodoo flavor, like some of the like the dill, the super dill ones. Like I want Zapp's, like New Orleans type of Zapp's chips.
Yeah, I like the dill, and salt and vinegar is good too. If I feel like eating chips until the top layer of my tongue is removed.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
But salt and vinegar, there's a price to pay. I almost need to put on chapstick before I start eating them.
It's like, I don't love my tongue today, or I don't want to taste anything for a good day or two.
I know. So you and I should never road trip together, because I have a feeling that our back seat would be like junk food, and our faces would hurt.
We would have, we would just have stomach aches the whole time. There would be no normal food.
No. It's such a, so I'm a very healthy eater overall, but I have like a huge hidden like weakness for salt, chips, things like that.
Yeah, it's
Not
like
so much sugar.
It's like I love a good salad, but I also love Reese cups. And
yes.
Balance.
Like if we're going for the middle road, then we could technically say that we're taking the two extremes, putting them together, and giving a middle road.
When I was younger, I used to go to the all-you-can-eat buffets, and I'd eat a salad first, because in my head, if you ate a salad first and then you ate the fat foods first, it equaled out and it canceled each other. So it was like, okay.
See, like clearly you have gone to my philosophical school of approaching life.
And it was the
extremes make the middle road.
I think about it now, and it's just really funny how I thought back then. But then at the same time, my salads weren't really salads because they were loaded with like everything. So,
That's what croutons are for.
Oh yeah, most definitely. My salads are like worse than triple cheeseburgers. Please laugh in there.
Now we're both gonna start coughing.
There's some lettuce in there, but there's also 6 pounds of other stuff.
Exactly. I like the egg crumbles. I put everything on there, lots of cheese. It's like there might be some green stuff in there, but it's covered up. It's all you can eat salad. I take that seriously. I'm not a wasteful person.
No, not at all. All right. So I'll ask one question.
Okay.
Maybe if we get to it. So you have 4 books, chapbooks out, and they're in no particular order. I'm sorry, they're not like
no worries.
Lessons in Forgetting, Spill, What the Trapeze Artist Trusts, and The Stumblefields. Tell us about those.
You just did it perfectly in order, John. That's so good. Yes, you did. So that's awesome. When you said no particular order, I thought you'd mix it, but no, that was exactly how they got published. So Lessons in Forgetting was a chapbook that Main Street Rag put out, and it was via their Author's Choice series, which they no longer have. And I loved it as a series because what the publisher said was, if you've been published by Main Street Rag and there's a poet that you know their work and you want to recommend a chapbook, we will publish it, based on your recommendation. And then also, they were going to read it as well, but it allowed current authors to recommend friends. And so
that is genius.
Right. And so I've actually gotten to recommend two of my friends through the authors series. I mean, this would have been, heaven's sakes, probably 10 years ago, 9 years ago. Mimi Herman, fabulous poet, and Michael Beadle, lovely poet, fabulous person. And both of them were involved with Poetry Out Loud and lots of working with young people and doing classes. And I knew that their books were strong. And so I said, yes, I want to recommend you for the author series. They don't have it any longer, but it's what got me my start for, getting books published. I had been publishing individual poems, and I don't know that I thought about a book per se. But I had one book that I had already written. Spill was actually the first book I wrote. And I had sent it to friends of mine who are editors and gotten a lot of good feedback, because even though I, knew how to write individual poems and have taken tons of classes, I'd never put things together, and I wasn't really sure how to move that way. So I reached out to people for information, and I studied other poets' books. And in any event, when Lessons in Forgetting got published, I was so freaking happy. Because it was a very personal book. My mother had early onset Alzheimer's. So by the time she was my age, she was already cognitively very impaired. And as my child was, getting potty trained, my mother was going into diapers. And it was really hard to be a young mother, who was changing diapers on my child and on my mom. And so I started writing these poems and hiding them in drawers because I think they were too close at the time. And then I read one to my dad, who was my mom's primary caregiver, and he took lovely care of her. I mean, she was bedridden for the last 5 years of her life and only drank from a bottle, and, had long ago lost the verbal skills to communicate. But, you could still, she still recognized like touch. So she liked to have her arms and legs rubbed and her hands. And I started writing these poems about that experience, but then also like for my dad, because he was such an amazing caregiver. So that was the first book published. And then Spill is more rougher around the edges to me, I think. It has a lot to do with addiction, and I worked as a chemical dependency counselor, but I'm also a recovering addict, coming up on 35 years clean. That is crazy to, right? Like, that's crazy to think about. I was 22 when I got clean. This book, I had poems that I had written when I was still in active addiction, and I came back as a young adult looking at them from a different perspective and trying to remember how I felt with addiction. So those poems took a little bit longer because I'd go into them and then I'd have to step away. I'd be like, ugh, that's heavy stuff. But so I enjoyed, Spill was taken by Main Street Rag as well. I have done 3 of my 4 books with Main Street Rag, and I really enjoy that process. The Trapeze Artist Trust was with Press 53, fabulous experience. I got to work really closely with the editor. I know you just, did a lot of editing with Tommy, and I wanted to talk about that experience, right? It's a really amazing experience when you start having someone who reads your work, really gets what your aim is. It's transformative.
Yeah, and doesn't want to make it their poetry, like reads it, sees how you wrote it, understands, and then kindly molds into you per se, and sees things that like he's seen some things that I wanted to say, but like I couldn't. And he's like, well, what about this? And it just grouped it together really wonderful. Plus, he's really brilliant and putting poems together for a manuscript, which I am not. So he was so yeah, we did our third manuscript, which is floating around. And so hopefully he'll be my forever editor, because I've never wanted to work with the editor person because I'm really OCD, and I I didn't want someone to change my stuff into their vision. But he's brilliant, and so it was really exciting, and now I don't want to let go of him.
Of course not. Okay, and so that's what I sensed with y'all's connection, that you had that experience, and I think that that's so incredibly powerful of an experience, because that's like a true editor, true mentor, someone who gets your vision, gets your voice, and isn't trying to alter. So many of us, when we work with others or we edit or we teach, there's a tendency to have an affinity for our own angle or aesthetics. But
and I just want to say too, I just want to make clear, I was talking about how people might want to change. I've did that too, reading poems and then see it in my vision and be like, and I like brevity type and short and to the point, and I've been like, oh, this, and then I'm like, oh wait, that's not my poem, and it still sounds good how they wrote it, and maybe one or two words are funky or not needed, but then even I've seen myself going into making it into my poem. I'm like, no, this poem's good, it just needs it needs a little touch, but it doesn't need my vision.
But so that's a very important transition to make. And a lot of us, that's a hard one. In some poets are just like my, one of my most favorite teachers when I was an undergraduate was Peggy Shoemaker, who was the Poet Laureate of Alaska at one point, just an amazing woman. But she had a way of finding the magic in every poem that we would read in class or that the students would turn in. And I think, how is she doing that? And I think some people just know how to enter a poem so unobtrusively that they understand the landscape and the language and the intent and can help you develop it without ever leaving a footprint of their own. Come on. And I don't have that skill. It would be something I consciously have to say to myself, enter the poem. There are poems that I'm just drawn to and poets that I'm just drawn to. And likely there is some kind of underlying energy that I have an affinity for. But not leaving our footprint all over someone else's poem is very important, right?
Uh-huh. And may I say something about one of my teachers? And I've said this before, and it's really funny. And, I had a teacher who, I don't remember her name, but I knew she was a wonderful person, and I adored her, and I would let her read my poetry. And this was in high school. And one day she told me, she said, in your poem, she said, you have asses everywhere. And it was funny because like when I first started writing, and I was horrible poet, like I look back, I was bad anyhow. She was very sweet to tell me that I wrote good poetry when I clearly did not. But I used to say as this and as that and as. So that's one thing I remembered for a long time was don't add so many asses into the poem.
I don't know. I think you can never have too many. I think it should be a poem. I had a teacher tell me that he hated the word lips in a poem. And so I looked up every word that had LIPS in it, like slips and clip. And I just did okay, because I have a defiant personality. And so when he said, don't do it, I said, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to see how many lips I can put in that poem.
That's funny.
So
it helped in the long run. But that's good. Do you still have that poem somewhere?
I do not. I would love to find it again.
Yeah.
Because I bet you it's just, I'm sure it's abysmal, but it's hilarious, the whole intent behind it. The word lips is gross. I thought, well, I'm going to put it everywhere. Yeah, and I think I think that that's one of the beautiful things about poetry is that we get to continue growing as humans, as poets, and that the craft is endlessly demanding and at the same time um, infinitely rewarding. The experience of writing is in and of itself rewarding and pleasurable to me still. And I think that I'm grateful to have had this outlet, this gift, this craft, this art, and the synergy I get from other writers. It has made my life very full and very beautiful. And I can't imagine having not had that experience on this path. I'm so grateful. You and I were talking ahead of time about how this the JoJo Show has taken off, and how you and I met was the Thursday book launches, and how in the the pandemic, when there's so much isolation, we've had a community that has continued and that has actually grown and has gotten closer to one another. And again, I say I think there's something really powerful about words and about community and about poets and writers all together. And that brings me back to what I did tonight. And I'm just going to hold it up. Is I just pulled some books off of my bookshelf. And these are all books that were published in 2020. And all of these people have been on the Thursday book launch that I got to do weekly. And so these are all, our friends, people that we adore, or our poetry crushes. I have gotten to see a lot of my poetry crushes this year. I got a lot of them.
Uh-huh.
I can't help it.
And I've got a lot and that I already had, but then I've got new ones too.
Yes.
And let me tell you, with this show, with this series, I'm gonna fangirl out so much.
Do it. That's what I was going to say. Do it. That's the fun of it. Like, John, that's literally, I said, what's my dream list of people that I would love to hear read? And I mean, I just reached out to them and said, you don't know me, but I know you have a book out. Would you come and celebrate your book on a Thursday? And see, you're doing this daily, which you have my complete and utter admiration. Because that's a lot of commitment. It really is, John. And I think that's fabulous to bring so many voices. Latifah, the first time I ever heard him read was via you. And, fabulous poet. I mean, you have introduced me to people that I haven't run across because there's so many different poets across the country. You can't keep up with them all. Much like Wednesday Night Poetry has introduced me to so many poets that I didn't know about. So the fourth book, The Stumblefields, came out in 2020. And that is partly why I started the book series, the weekly book launches, is because I realized, oh crud, I have to do a book launch and I don't know what to do. And so I thought, oh, wow, it's probably not just me. It's probably a lot of other people. And that's when I started that. I was like, I'm going to reach out to people and see if they want a book launch with us on Zoom. And we've had a lot of fun.
Oh, it's amazing. And like I said, I apologize for not being there lately, but it's brilliant. What your show is fabulous. It's fun. It's amazing. You're doing awesome.
It was the people we got to have on there. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad though, John, because the reason why, our Thursday groups got a little bit more infrequent is there's so much else going on. I mean, there are some amazing workshops that are, out. I mean, I know you've stayed busy, nightly with poetry stuff. I have friends that have written more in the past 2 years than they had in the past 5.
Yeah.
Because, they're synergy.
And one good thing, I mean, the pandemic is horrendous, but it has also, sorry, I got a message. It has also exploded my world of everything else, like publishers and magazines and poets. And I've never, with me, I never read before or went to a reading. And I've read and been to so many readings, more than probably a lifetime without, Zoom or whatnot. So it's been
That's pretty amazing, John.
Mm-hmm.
So for you to go from like not having gone to a lot of readings to suddenly like, I mean, that just opens up the world, right? I mean, it really does, because you suddenly get to see what other people are doing. You get a community. I mean, look at the relationships you've built. That's amazing.
Yeah, and never in my wildest dreams would I ever thought about doing any of the things I've done the past 2 years.
Well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and say, like, I remember the first time you came and you said, I haven't read at an open mic before, right?
Yeah.
And I said,
your show too was one of the first times I ever did anything like that.
Well, and you blossomed. Like, you were like, I mean, you started reading regularly. It was like awesome. And then you said, would you do a book launch? I was like, yes. Come on.
I've learned I love reading my poetries out loud. I've never did that. And then it was a little nervous, but I've learned it's one of my most favorite things to do now.
Which is great, because, I think that for a lot of us poets, we tend to be a little bit more introverted, and poetry's a very solitary act in the sense that most of us are by ourselves working on our work. And so I know for me, reading in public was not something that I thought, wow, that's what I want to do. I didn't really want to. Like, I thought, why would I do that? Like, I want to write, but I don't. And I did start to, the more practice you get, the better it feels. And now I enjoy it because it gives me a chance to talk about what I love, and to, interact with people and hopefully resonate or reach or connect my work with someone else's experience and that love of the word. And it is, I have a friend that says the page is a cold bed for poetry. Poetry is meant to live in the air. And it's an oral tradition, right? It is. Incantations are hardly powerful if they're not spoken.
Yeah.
So. Do you want to pick a number 1 to 18?
Oh, you want to do that now?
We can do one.
Let's see, what number? What's today?
Today is the 10th. I had to look.
Me too. We'll do number 10 then, since today's the 10th.
All righty. This is actually a friend of mine. There were horses. Pat Revere Seal. She used to be in Nashville. She's now oh, heaven's sakes, Burnsville, North Carolina. And that's her. And of course, I love the picture. So I'm just going to open up to a page. Okay, I'm going to read her poem, Sloth. Sloth, I can spend all day in my robe and slippers, foul-mouthed and furry-toothed, shuffling about the house or lazing in my favorite wing-backed, feet propped on the ottoman. This is how I like it. Absence of ambition. Summer days, you'll find me under the trees, lounging in a hammock, idle and nearly naked. I embrace my laziness. Maybe it's pride that keeps me tethered to the lack of ambition. Too much time to let my mind roam over the far ridge. Thoughts settle into the valley of my contentment like morning fog, dense but not deadly. I love sloth days, right? I do. And it captures it so well. And there's something like very luxurious in the words. Like I kind of feel like I need a day like that.
Sometimes we need a week like that.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say something. Yes, I think that's true. And I tend to be someone who stays in motion. It's very hard for me to like quiet or take time, but it's something that I really need. And so occasionally I'll take like a mini mental health day where I just say, okay, I still have to feed animals. I still have to work the farm. But instead of staying in perpetual motion, I'll you know, reserve an hour to sit down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm even one of those people like speed meditate. I'd be like, oh, it's time to meditate. Like I can make anything work. Even things that are supposed to be like fun and good for you, I'm like, okay, it's time for it. Yeah, chop, chop, snap, snap, bitches.
Let's sit down fast, hurry up. Come on. No.
Exactly. It's so true.
You don't have all day. No.
My kids used to say, you don't know how to take a vacation. Like you just
Full throttle.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I probably need lighten up tattooed on my hands so I can see it.
Just your palm so you can look at it. Oh,
that's right. That's right. That's on my to-do list. I'm gonna cross that off.
Lighten up, sit down, relax.
Yeah. Quiet the mind.
This is great. Oh, you can tell we haven't talked in a while.
I know. We're catching up.
So you serve as the inaugural Heart of
Pamlico.
Pamlico Poet Laureate. So tell us about that. That's awesome.
Oh, you did so much research. You're so awesome. How are you doing this for everybody? That's crazy. That's awesome, though. So in Eastern North Carolina, the Pamlico Writers Group decided to have an inaugural Poet Laureateship. And so they asked for a bunch of entries, and there was a whole packet you had to create. And somebody sent, Marty Silverthorne sent a reminder to me to send something in. And so he was one of the finalists, and I would have chosen him. As a matter of fact, I wrote to the people that were putting it on, and I said, I'm going to withdraw my name and put my support behind Marty. And Marty said he was having some health issues, so he stepped out of the running, and it was between me and another woman. So I stayed in. Marty would have been perfect. He has since passed, and I will say that we're having a book launch because I helped edit. The main person was Marsha Warren, that made sure his final book came out. And Marty, I like to say, he was perfect for Eastern North Carolina because he could talk about the Bible and whiskey and moonshine in the same sentence, and it worked.
Right.
And as a typical Eastern North Carolina boy, he was fabulous. But but I ended up the inaugural, and I was very grateful. It was a great experience, and got me more involved locally, and really made me start thinking about how we use our voice to amplify each other. I think that one of the things I love about North Carolina poets, and I'm sure this is true elsewhere, and it certainly is true of the poets' friendships that I have, we want to amplify each other. There's nobody feeling like I want a bigger piece of the pie, or if you get a piece of pie, I won't have a piece of pie. It's a very tight-knit group that wants to see you do well. And I feel very fortunate to have been in this area. So we'll celebrate Marty's voice real soon. And as the inaugural, we just had a new person become the Poet Laureate of the Heart of Pamlico Poet Laureate. And I'm sure she'll do a fabulous job. It's a little bit different right now during the pandemic because we were having regular workshops, and I was getting to do, revision workshops and yoga and writing, which I love doing yoga and meditation as a way to spark writing. But so I got to do that. That was a lot of fun. And I don't know why, you just reminded me. I want to say that it's the month of February, so Redheaded Stepchild is open for submissions. Please send us work. And we only take stuff that's been rejected elsewhere, but the whole month of February.
So basically, any poem I have, I can send to you. No.
Right? Don't you love that? So one of my first memories, like I was in, I think, 6th grade. And a writer came in, and this is back in, the dark ages. We didn't have computers. So you sent your work out into the mail with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and years later you'd hear back in the Stone Age, we passed on your work. But this guy had taped together all his rejection letters, and we were in the gymnasium, and he rolled it out and it went across the gymnasium. And I thought, wow, he kept all that reject. And I don't know why that intrigued me, but I already knew I wanted to be a rater. And I used to joke, I am just collecting rejection slips. Don't take it seriously, and it is hard, right? It is hard to be a poet, send your babies out into the world and receive these rejections. But I think what I wanted to do with Redheaded Stepchild is say that, that's part of the whole experience, right? And sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's editorial needs. Sometimes there's already a poem that has a similar topic that, you don't want that in the same issue. I think I just wanted to make use of the idea that rejection is part of the experience and it's nothing personal, I was surprised with how much it resonated though. The first time that we opened up for submissions, I was thinking, boy, I hope we get like 10 submissions so I can publish something. I was a little worried because we've been running it for 15 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate doing that. The friend I started with, Deborah Averill, was out in California, and she's since passed. Amazing poet, amazing friend, but she co-founded it with me, and we both grew up in the 80s punk rock kids. We like the DIY and yes to rejects, yes to dumpster diving, yes to losers, etc. And so it really appealed. I know, right? Woo! The underdogs. I'm sorry. I like the dark horse. I like the underdogs. I prefer people that other people might say, well, that's not my cup of tea. I think I'm probably gonna like that strange brew. Part of the alphabet mafia over here.
Yeah.
We're gonna
get cozy and have fun.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know that I answered your question, but I put a lot of words out there.
You put like 4 questions, actually.
Checked off.
I was like, so the next question was, you're the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. So is there anything else you want to talk about with that?
No, but I do want to encourage people to send to us. I do.
Yeah, submit.
Exactly.
You're wonderful, and you do a lot of good, and
we have fun stuff. I still can tell you poems that we published years ago. I love that. And I love seeing poems that we published in people's books. And occasionally someone will say, will you blurb this book? By the way, you published one of the poems in the book in Redheaded Stepchild. And I just think that's so fulfilling. It's so cool, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't anticipate doing that. Here's how I had to make myself do this, John. We had talked about it for like a year, and I don't know crap about putting stuff up on web pages or any of that stuff. I managed to do it every time I put the issue up. I have no clue how, because I really am like not that computer literate. But I went and I made business cards for Redheaded Stepchild, and I said I'll run it until I run out of business cards. And that way, like, I knew I wouldn't invest $15 in business cards and not follow through because I don't waste money. So that forced my hand, right?
How many business cards do you have left?
I still have a whole bunch because it turns out I don't go a lot of places where I get to hand it out.
You're going to be running this until you're 90.
Oh, shoot. I'm going to be buried with those damn things. Actually, I'm being cremated. I already paid for it. They're just going to throw it on the fire. Because I did one of those big packets. Like, it's a huge.
Like the 1,000+ cards.
Yeah, you remember the Vistaprint deals. It was like 50% off.
Big. I even ordered, like, back in the day, I even got like a sleeve of the 300 or 500 cards.
Yes.
Yeah, and like, I don't know why, it was like, it was so exciting to do, it was the big thing. And I had like my name on there and that I was a poet and really cool. So they got lost. They never went.
I was so sad. I was going to hope that you still had them.
Oh no, that was like 20 years ago. I don't even think I was 18 yet when I did it.
Oh my
But it was just
gosh.
so exciting to have, oh, business cards. There was lots. They're really cool. And then they just did, they flittered in the wind. But, but yeah, this
Exactly.
was the big,
Exactly.
yeah, even I wanted them and I didn't even have no reason to have them.
But but I love them, and there is something so fulfilling. I mean, okay, so that transition. This is very important. That transition from like writing to like publicly calling yourself a poet is a huge one. And I think a lot of people struggle for it. So when you're talking about getting those business cards, John, and I'm surprised you were so young when you did it, that's about claiming that
Yeah, it
artistic
made me feel
self.
official. It made me feel official.
It's
Like
legitimizing, right? It feels
I have
real.
business cards.
Exactly. But wait, I have business cards.
I have a business card. I'm a real poet. I have a business card.
Yes. And again, when we get that first book, and we see it, it's that manifestation of this inner yearning, this longing. And so how fabulous is to have that external reality. It's
And
really
then when I got my first book published, in 2016, and I got free copies, and I was to sell them, and instead, I literally held on to them for months and months because they're so beautiful, and I didn't want to give anyone of them away.
They're like
And
your
then once I
babies.
did, huh?
They were like your babies. You don't want
Yeah,
to just
and
give
then
them.
once I did was like, okay, I can start selling them. I rarely sold any because I kept giving them all away.
That's me. That's
uh,
me. I suck at the business aspect of poets.
but they were so beautiful and amazing and crisp, and so I was just like, they're all mine. Oh,
Oh my precious,
mine.
and so I have to say, as a writer, one of the things that blows my mind, think about our, like that painting back there, visual artists, they paint and then they sell that painting and they never get to see it again. I can't
Great.
stand that.
That would
And
be
like,
so hard.
I couldn't do it. And I have, like, now I do art and I do, some metal work and stuff like that. And I miss them when I send them someplace. I'm like, well, I wonder how it's doing. But with poetry, we're so lucky. We can do like that same poem, we can send out everywhere. It's such a beautiful medium. And I just think it must be so hard for, artists. I mean, musicians can keep that song, I'm grateful to have art that I can keep and give away now.
So you have a therapeutic writing. You're a therapeutic writing structure with horses. So tell us all about that. The title, what you do, all that, or that's the title, the name.
Yeah, but so, I mean, I will talk a little bit about Freckles Farm. So I was executive director of a therapeutic riding program where we taught people with disabilities how to ride horses, and also other horsemanship skills. So we did groundwork. And then I decided that I wanted to work more specifically with horses' unmounted activities, primarily in more equine facilitated psychotherapy. So it's therapy incorporating horses. I work with my colleague, Dr. Miola, and my preference is working with people that have PTSD. And my main job now is as equine specialist in mental health and learning. What is that? You might ask. I'm not a horse therapist. Horses do sometimes need some help. They can have baggage just like we can. Right? You know this from animals that you've rescued, John. You've worked with animals that have abuse histories, and you can feel that, right? You can feel them trying to work through that pain. And one of their biggest questions they're asking at all times is, are you safe? Am I safe with you? So my job as equine specialist is to be the voice of the horse and to make sure that that interaction is beneficial to the horse, and certainly above all not harmful. So our horses are allowed to say yes or to say no. And they do both. And our main groups that we run right now are Equine Services for Heroes. So I like working with veterans. And I definitely have an affinity for combat veterans who have served during wartime. And I think horses and relationships with horses are very healing in and of themselves. So we have turkeys here. They have participated in there was one client who preferred the turkeys, and for whatever reasons, like the turkeys like preferred them. It's funny. But mainly we work with horses. We're not doing foul psychotherapy here. We do yoga classes and Reiki and heart math, a lot of healing arts. So this farm is 14 acres. I came here with my daughters a decade ago, and there was no horses here, no land for horses. I had horses where I was, and yeah, it's amazing. Like I see the very land here as like healing. So I'm lucky to be able to do poetry and ponies and the things that I love. And what I do to make money is pretty much anything. I walk dogs, I do lawns, I paint, but I've been very fortunate that when I have needed something to come through, something comes through. Like I'll tell you, one of the most invaluable things, and I'm so grateful for this, is judging poetry contests. Holy smokes. It's lovely to have a little bit of extra money and be able to participate in poetry and celebrating somebody's words. So thanks for that question though, because people are like, what exactly do you do? What is the equine specialist in mental health and learning? I'm like, best way to describe it is my job is to have a deep relationship with the horses and make sure that the humans and the horses are safe in the interactions, and to teach people that language, much like how your dogs, right? Mm-hmm. And your dogs may care whether or not you've had a bad day, but your dogs aren't going to necessarily care that I've had a bad day.
Mm-hmm. They're going to run from you.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm not their person. I'm not part of their pack. And dogs, even though they're social creatures that live in a pack and have that social structure and relationships, very deep relationships, they're predators, right? It's different. Mm-hmm. Horses are prey animals. And so it matters to them whether you've had a bad day. Even if they don't know you, you're a predator. And if you've had a bad day, they're alert. So they are hyper vigilant, much in the way that some of us with PTSD are hyper vigilant. So they don't miss nonverbal cues. They know a lot about each person that steps into their pasture. And that's where so much of the magic happens. They are such sensitive, beautiful creatures. Beautiful creatures. And you might say, well, why don't you work with bunnies? They're social creatures. They're little.
And they bite you sometimes.
They do. Well, and I did bunny yoga, and I have to tell you, John, this was not a good idea. So the minute they were great, they were really cute when we would be doing things, they'd be jumping. But the minute we'd go into Shavasana, everybody be relaxing, and the bunnies, because we were like relaxed, they could feel it. They'd start jumping on people. Okay, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. You're so close to relaxation, and a bunny jumped on your belly. People be like, ah!
And two, if you like my cat, his favorite thing to do is get on the TV stand when I'm laying down and jump right on my belly. He weighs like 100 pounds. But when you're not expecting it, and something that
that's gonna hurt.
Yeah, it takes the breath out of you.
No, I mean, no one's gonna expect it to be jumping, and their eyes are closed. So I took bunny yoga off of the list of things we offer. I still have people that request it. They're like, it was fun. It was stressful for me.
Like one-on-one sessions of bunny yoga.
Exactly. And I'll have to warn them ahead of time, say, look, it may jump on you.
One of the fun things too, when you did your show and you were in your yoga room and you'd have the babies in there with you and they'd be all around and out.
Yes.
enjoyed. Yeah, that was a fun part with your show. I don't know if you still do that anymore, but you'd
I
have the
just
baby.
realized you knew the baby turkeys growing up. I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, you just made my heart so happy. So now they're huge. Like, I
Oh my
mean,
Lord. I
Hercules,
need new pictures then.
he's like 50
Updated
pounds.
pictures.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I
But
miss the baby turkeys. Yeah, they would come flying out when we're doing. Oh, that just you brought back such fond memories. I may have to go look that back up. Oh, that's very
It was
cool.
lovely. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Well, that's
And
how
then
I always felt about like when you would be on and I could see animals like your puppies. I'd be like, there they are.
all around everywhere.
So, you know, part of our like connection with people and doing this is like they're animals. Like I got to know Karen's cat. You know, I mean, your puppies. It's funny that we know each other's critters, right?
I was doing a show the other day, like 2 or 3 days ago, and my cats were in my bedroom with me because I do it from my bedroom because I sit on my bed because I'm lazy, and it's the most comfortable place.
Yeah.
So, and the cats were in here, and they've been in here before, but I don't know if it was my guest's voice or whatnot, but they were just wanting to get on the phone and near the phone, and so the whole time you can see me because I've watched them. I'm just like this, trying to like move them away. It was funny.
So there's
All right.
a friend that has a bird and it'll like usually sits on her shoulder, but occasionally he'll walk in front of the camera and then turn his butt to it. And it's so rude. It's like, what? Did I just get mooned by a bird? You know, and then she'll pick him back up because she, you know, she realizes it's bird butt. So she'll set him back here. But he's hilarious. He's hilarious.
Great.
You want to pick another book?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. So my time is 6:55. So we'll go with number 6.
Oh, good. That's a great one. 2, 4. Okay. Fox Logic Fireweed. Were you there for Jennifer Sweeney?
I think so.
Oh my heavens. I mean, her and Jen Karetnik, I'm trying to find her book real quick because they did a dual launch.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you were there.
Yeah, because that's how I met them. And then you know, I did what I always do, message them and
But you know what, John, I love that about you. I love that you engage people that you admire and that you connect with in conversation. And those two were a powerhouse. They were incredible. Incredible.
One of the Jens is going to be on my show.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I hope both of them.
In like 2 months, or either in May or June.
Good. Well, I'll keep an eye out for that. So and it was Jennifer Sweeney who I first reached out to, and she said, let's add Jen. And I love the concept of the dual book launch. And those two were fabulous together. So we've done it a couple times, but I'm going to read the one poem that I opened to, and it's actually one she read at the book launch, and it was fabulous. It's Jennifer's of the 1970s. Do you remember this? So good. So freaking good. We were part of a tribe, at least 3 to a class. You could scan a room and find us everywhere, swishing a hula hoop around our Jennifer hips. Enough of us to populate Fiji or Damascus. We orbited our own planet, the paisley atmosphere swirling as the bell bottoms tolled and the skyrockets took flight. So good. Mirrored disco balls, each facet released another known in relationship to the initials of our last names, latched hooked on yarn pillows, ironed on the back of our concert gut shirts, macrame belt, God's eyes. We came out of a dreamsicle, rained like corn-husked girls, easily wrapped into skirts at the church bazaar. Our decade was barefoot, tapestry, buttercup, lemon lime, rick-rack, easy cheese. To be so abundant, bearing a name that everyone agreed was lovely, a triple note they wanted to repeat. I stopped hearing it, the swift hook of the J, little Jim in the mouth, the soft fur landing, all folded in the envelope of the common, a Xanadu of Jennifers, a roller rink of Jennifers, a decahedron of Jennifers. I could always see the collective of us, unwittingly part of the ensemble, yet to be one meant we were also gifted an alter ego, a spray-on leotard or chameleon foil lurking under our jumpers. I run into one of us now in yoga pants, maybe a child at the hip. We're tired. We've seen some things, but we're pointed to the horizon. And sometimes a few of us still rise when the latte order is called and our gently wrinkling faces smile knowingly. Glitter wave we all came out of so decisively. We're the Fosse dance in the musical that gets revived in summer community theater. The cake still holding its layers in the rain. The silver moon boots that flares in the late October sky. So good. I really would, in my mind, I kept hearing her read. She did such a lovely job. And I remember all of us were laughing by the, I mean, it's, you know, there's laughter, but there's also like, there's a bittersweet there. It's a powerful poem. And I have to tell you, this whole book was just amazing. Jennifer and Jen were such a powerhouse. It was such a really cool book launch. And I think we didn't even get to open mic that night, John. I think all of us were kind of like, you know, wow.
Yeah, it was amazing show. And I just want to, and about the shows, and you have Christopher Burst's book there, and I missed that episode. I could have kicked myself. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I got lost track of time, and then I have missed that episode. And oh my God, let me tell you, I would have talked and talked and talked because, like,
I know how you felt about him. You had a long communication, right?
Huh?
You two were writing back and forth for a while.
We became friends. He was one of the very first big poets to ever write me. And I didn't even have a book out yet. Before my first book came out, my publisher did a broadside to get like a promotion out because I was a nobody. And he happened upon that broadside and wrote me and liked the poems, and we became really good friends. And he had like helped me with so many poems, and he did a blurb for my first book. He did reviews for a few others. He and everything. And then but yeah, it was really tragic when I found out he had passed away.
I was gonna say,
I had been calling him, and so I just figured he was busy. And that hit even more to realize that he had gone, and I had to find out through someone else.
I'm sorry. You know, when I heard that he had died, I thought of you because you and I had talked before he came on the show. You were so excited.
I was so excited. And I was kicking myself. And I don't know why I had forgotten about it.
Oh, there's no telling. I mean, I was going to say there was so much going on. And that's why.
So much. I was working long hours and doing all kinds of stuff. And that was one. I mean, I was excited about all your shows, don't get me wrong, but I was like, oh my God, she has Christopher Burst. I'm gonna just talk my face off because he was there since the beginning of my venture of becoming a poet.
And he was prolific,
supporter.
Prolific, down to earth, brilliant man. The book Dear Terror. The book Dear Terror is just to me, it's so prescient, you know, and timely. It's a fabulous book, and so you know, I can see why you had deep admiration for him as a poet, and then also for him as a human being, right?
In my new book, added he wrote a small like blurb type thing, not for any book in particular. He was just writing to me. He wrote, and so I added, and also there's a few poems in that book, probably more than a few that I had sent him, because those poems are back beyond, you know, they're the older poems that I sent him, and he would give me suggestions and stuff. So there's a few poems in there that now, you know, it's memories, unfortunately memories, but you know, there's little trinkets of him all throughout that book and stuff. And it was, I'm getting emotional, sorry.
And you should. That's very powerful. And how beautiful that you can look at those poems.
Yeah, and then for me to be a nobody poet, because I was a nobody poet, I didn't do anything on social media. I didn't submit
Yeah.
to magazines. Like I got lucky. Fanny Howe, like started talking to me, and she sent my poems. So for a big poet like he was to engage in conversation with me, because I never, mailed him or anything. That
Yeah.
made me feel like, I was good enough, and I would, I was doing something right. So, he was
And
wonderful.
see, again, we're back to what are those pivotal, like John, you're hitting on what are those pivotal things that make a difference for us as poets. And also to think about, like, now you're in that position where you are that person for other poets who are.
And that's crazy to think of. Like when I get comments from bigger poets who I cherish about, oh, this, so good, or I love your poetry,
Yeah.
or a poet who looks up like to me as a poet, and so it just still it and I'm pretty sure, those poets and other poets feel it just boggles your mind that, the poets you look up to recognize you, and then poets that are just starting
Yeah.
look up to you. And that is the most coolest thing in the world. Like I cherish it often.
Exactly. And I'm glad you cherish it, because we know how important it is for people to be seen, to be heard, and to find their group that they connect with, that resonance and that energetic synergy that we all crave, that sense of belonging and that welcoming environment. So I think it's that's again, that's kind of like pay it forward, right? There were people that
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was going to say exactly what you said about Christopher. There are people that gave us that encouragement at that right time that made a difference, and that we get to, be in that position to, greater or lesser degrees.
And I want to say something so I can put it out there into the world, into the atmosphere.
Yes,
So
do it.
it keeps on my mind. I have a manuscript by a lovely poet from Nigeria I have to read, and I've been forgetting. So I'm just gonna say, like, yeah, so I get people who send me stuff to read and stuff, and sometimes I'm a little slow. So I'm just gonna say here as a reminder to myself, and someone can be like, message me and have you. But yeah, there's a manuscript I'm gonna start tonight because he reminded me that I gotta
No, I
read.
love that. But
It's like
see,
a part of people looking up to you, and when you get something and you do say, okay, I'm gonna read this, like, so it's just like, yeah, so
but you put it out there, and now you're going to be reminded of it.
yeah.
And, somebody has handed you their baby, and you have lovingly taken them into your arms, and you're going to hand it back and say, good job, and whatever insights you have. But I think that's beautiful.
And he commented on like one of the shows or one of the posts about the show, and he's like, I sent you the manuscript. Do you remember to read it? You haven't told me anything about it yet. And I was like, oh my gosh.
But see, sometimes it's hard to, like, I'm always backlogged with certain things. I've got a blurb, I've got to write. I've loved reading the book. I'm very funny about blurbs. It takes me a while to say exactly. I have to digest for a while. I have to think about.
And Nigerian poets, like a lot of Nigerian poets, they're so freaking amazing. And they will punch you, that you read their poems, and they will punch you in your face with their poetry.
Yeah.
It's so real, and they make it so real. And yeah. So, and I know it's gonna like punch me in my face a few times. So
But that's amazing. And my dad, that's funny that we're talking about this. My dad just gave me a collection of East African poets. And he's so I've been saying I'm going to read it, and I know it's right up at that bookshelf. I'm like, I gotta get to it, because I had said I would get back to him about it.
yeah, and I just want to say Nigerian poets, and they're loyal too, let me tell you. And this is not rude at all. I have many Nigerian poets friends, and they're right there, and others will see and follow you and everything. So they're the loveliest people. I love them, and they're brilliant poets. And I have one I'm editing. I know this is off course, but there's one I'm editing.
in English too. So try to
Yeah.
imagine. I like that. I am barely literate in my own mother tongue. Seriously.
Uh-huh.
So I have a lot of respect for people that can capture things because English is not an easy language.
And there's one I'm editing from a friend, and he trusts me 100%. He thinks I'm a brilliant poet, and he's like, whatever edits you do, I go with, which is crazy. But he wants me to publish it in my VoiceLux press, and so I lovingly told him, no,
Yeah.
you are bigger than my press. I mean, I'm not saying my press isn't worthy of anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've done some great work.
I'm also and it's his first research. And I'm also smart enough, and I'm not stingy or greedy to know that your poetry belongs in the whole wide world. And right now, VoiceLux Press is a small reach. And so I'm like, I will help you with this. And I'm also going to help you find a publisher who can, so brilliant. And he's so,
that's so exciting though.
So yeah, so I'm like, maybe your second or third one, but not your first. Like, I understand enough where I'm not going to be that stingy person who's like, I found you, I want you, when I know my publisher is starting out and it's not humongous yet. And maybe it will be one day, and it will be, everyone will want to read, but like, he needs the world.
Well,
Sorry.
and you know a lot of people, you know a lot of publishers and presses. So, think about the people that you have access to who might have suggestions. There's so much out there.
I love everyone who's been beautiful and wonderful enough to feel that I'm worthy of publishing their poetry. And so I've published some amazing poetry and amazing collections, and I cherish all of them.
And look at how booked the JoJo Show is. You said you're booked out until April?
July.
Okay? Holy, that's crazy.
That's crazy. I filled up. The first 3 months went in like one day.
Oh my God.
Oh
my God. Well, thank you for letting me go to play.
That's a whole level of honor. Wow, I'm so honored that these people believe in me enough to take time out of their day to ramble with me and to, interview, read their poems, and trust in me with this process.
You're booked for half a year, John.
And this is only the 10th episode of the show. You are the 10th episode.
Yay, I'm 10. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
10 on the 10.
I'm already booked up until July.
That really, think about that. Like that, your dance card is that full.
I cannot be too sick. I cannot be away from the house. I can, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I have to keep my toes on the ground and my focus. Because if I miss one episode, they have to, if we have to reschedule one, that's 5 months in the future, and I can't be doing that, So I always like I set my alarm for 5 o'clock my time, which is shows something like around 6 my time, and then I'm like, all right, I'm ready. And then so I messaged the poet, and I'm like, an hour away, so excited, just to have like a connection before the show and stuff, to make sure they're ready, because I don't want to be like, okay, the show's starting in 2 minutes, and they're like, oh crap,
Yeah, no, you were smart to do that. That was something I sometimes, forgot to. I would message about a half an hour sometimes, but an hour makes better sense.
It's just helpful for me too, because an hour gives me an hour too.
You get excited,
All right, so I want to talk about more of your metal artwork.
Because
you're fabulous and amazing, and I see some of the pictures, and I'm just like, wow.
You're so awesome. Thank you. So I learned to weld during the pandemic. The guy that I was seeing was welding, and I had looked up some art with horseshoes, and of course I have horseshoes having horses, and I said, teach me how to weld, and he was like, yeah, sure. And so it turns out I love it. it's no surprise that I like playing with fire. It's beautiful. And so welding and working with the grinder, it's like holding fistfuls of sparklers. I love it.
Oh yeah.
So
I love how that is, oh, well, of course you're a poet, so that is but so poetic, a fistful of sparklers. I love that.
It just makes me happy. I mean, and it's fire. And also metal is surprisingly forgiving. And so when I would paint, I would get frustrated because what I'd see in my mind, I couldn't create. Like I don't have the skill. I liked painting. My mother was I'm trying to see if I have any artwork of hers in here. I do. I'll turn you to one of that painting up there. Yeah, my mother was fabulous, but mainly mixed media, but she was an acrylic artist and I inherited her brushes, but metal is very forgiving. So painting, I'd have a vision and I couldn't create it. With metal work, I can do what I want to do. Like I can see it and create it. And so I love it. Now I'm not a great welder. Today I was trying to fix, I was trying to fix a pan that the handle had come off of. It's a big, what I used to do, my crawfish boils, my New Orleans crawfish boils, just, and so the pan, the handle had come off and I was like, I'll just weld it back on, I can, but that was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I actually burned through it and had to use a little bit of silverware. So for a while I was also doing like hummingbirds out of spoons and knives and horseshoes. And my kids were like, we have no spoons.
We'll go get some at Walmart. No.
Exactly. So then people started bringing me bags of silverware.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And so like I would tell them, just tell me what you want me to make you as a thank you. So I actually have, like, I'll go get one of the bags. Hang on.
All right. Oh, it's lovely. You keep them in your bedroom.
Well, I have, this is somebody I'm doing a delivery for.
Oh, your art. I don't know why I thought you were going to go get a bag full of spoons.
Oh, I wish. No, this is a, yard rooster.
Oh, I love that.
And then that's one of my hummingbirds.
Oh my Lord.
Isn't that crazy?
That is amazing.
Knives here.
I need one.
And then the tail parts of the spoon, and then just a horseshoe. And
you have a place where do you take requests or sell them?
I just on Facebook. So I mean, at first my daughter tried to get me an Etsy shop, and there was so many details to the damn thing. I just said, no, I'm not going to do it that way.
It's so complicated to fill out. Like, it's ridiculous.
Okay, so it's not just me. Like, I just got frustrated. And so I just put it on Facebook. Bless you.
I want to point out, because I like pointing out big things. I am trying to do a NEA grant, the poetry one for the, let me tell you, there are so many hoops and jumps and tunnels, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know how people do it. It's a process. It's like working a job. It's ridiculous. Like, like just it should be like name some info, put some links or whatever of, and be done. They want a full, they want novels of stuff. Just
I couldn't do that. I know, but maybe find somebody who's completed it and help and see if they'll help. Oh, good, because that's the only thing I can think of doing.
I couldn't do it by myself. And I have a friend who won it 2 years ago, and I was like, hey, I need help. Like, I'm too stupid.
Congratulations to them. That's fabulous.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just too stupid. I don't even know. I couldn't even get to the first process to put my name on it. Like, that's how stupid it is. So I only have one process left, which is like, write out everything you've ever published, got published, where you published. We want page number. They want page number, ISBN numbers, like detail, every single of magazines.
I would never be able to do that.
Of magazines you were published in. I understand books and stuff, but they want every single detail about every single issue. or web magazine you were publishing. That's ridiculous. I'm not trying to be rude.
I don't think I could look up over the years all the page numbers or volumes.
I barely remember what magazines I got published in, let alone the page number my poem's on.
It goes back to 1980s for me. I mean, where am I going to find those? Wow. But congratulations for attempting it. And I think that you'll get it done.
I think I got until like March 1st or March 10th. So I got a few more days, but it's a process and I might not even finish it. It's just one of those.
Well, the good thing is once you've started it, you'll have all that information.
And it's very exciting. I was so excited. I believe in myself. I think I can do it. And then I started, I'm like, well, I don't even care no more. They can keep their $25,000.
You can keep your money. This isn't worth it. I'd rather do scratch cards. Oh Lord. Yeah, no, I'm sure that those the average grant has a lot of hoop jumping and a lot of like budgets and I had to do a lot of that when I was executive director.
And one thing I'm going to do with the show is if it gets big enough and if the funds come in and they're big enough, even if they're not huge, I want to give, and I don't want I keep saying grants, but more like gifts because I don't want no paperwork. And so I'm going to give like each month, like have 10 poets and give them a prize per se, money.
I think that's fabulous, because that can be used towards going to get more education or computers or.
And there's going to be no stipulations, no nothing. And so I'm having an idea how I'm going to do it, like how I'm going to give the money away. But first we got to get there and it's big and stuff. And it'd probably start out like hopefully maybe $100 per poet, but maybe in like 3 or 4 years, if we get good funding and if it gets worldwide and bigger people see it and believe in it who have funding, we can do like $5,000 a poet. That's my goal, to get up to like, to give like 10 poets a month, $5,000 prizes.
Yeah.
But like,
what I was just realizing, I would love to see, the international poet. Like, I love the idea of the guy who, like the Nigerian poet whose book you're looking at. That would be fabulous. I like that.
And there's so many poets out there that want to do stuff, but other stuff prevent them. And even if it's a little pillow for a month, like not worry about bills or food or, paycheck or whatever, and just have that pillow. Or even if it's just a month, they can just be like, all right, I have, my mind's cleared out now. Or, I don't have to, work 12 hours a day for this month. I don't have to work all this overtime. I can,
and so even if somebody isn't able to go to say, a retreat or a workshop or, a residency, just having that little extra money can take that pressure off. I mean, this, and take that pressure off so that you just can focus on writing.
Or if it gets big enough and the check is big enough, take 2 or 3 days off of life and go camping in the woods or go to a nice hotel.
I think so. That's one of mine. That's my youngest. This is John. This is Remy.
Hello.
How are you?
Ask how you are.
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
This is my artist, and they have made beignets. My artist, not the cook, and these actually feel like biscuits.
That's why I said beignet.
I was going to say these are not beignets.
Beignet biscuits.
It's okay.
Do they taste?
They taste good.
Okay. I don't know what
They're just
supposed to taste like.
So beignets are very light. They're like a donut. I'll be back with you.
And so, and I have a fundraiser, and if anyone wants to donate, or if anyone knows an organization or people who like to help out or things that are trying to do good in the world, like share, you can donate, you can share, you can do all that wonderful stuff. I'm trying to like email bigger people, and so hopefully that works. But yes, and I don't want to like cloud it with like me saying donate with your interview or anything.
No, do it. That's how you keep your support.
And then also I wanna get like bigger stuff for the show and stuff. But yeah, donate, share. You can't donate, share. If you know anyone who might donate, share. Like my goal is to get worldwide, get like 1 million viewers, and it's in a group right now. So like 1 million members,
Yeah, I like that.
everyone watched throughout the world. And even if like maybe someone can be seen who is a smaller poet by someone big, and then their poet life changes. So my goal is to make
What's
this.
the best way to get to the fundraiser? Is that on Facebook, on the page?
Facebook. Oh, my fundraiser is on my page, and it's also in the group page, and it's posted in the announcements or featured area. The minimum is $5. Sorry, that's not my doing. That's Facebook fundraiser is minimum $5. But yeah. My goal is to get worldwide, get 1 million plus viewers, guests every day for the next 10 years, to talk to everyone in the world. Yeah, maybe I could talk to every poet in the world. Maybe this show will reach every poet in the world, and I get to talk to every one of them. That would be fantastic.
Oh, you would have a blast with that.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on that.
Oh no, I wanted you to. I think that's very important. That way people know how to support.
Yeah, and yesterday was the first day I advertised the fundraiser and stuff, because I've been having a lot of people say, you should do it during your show when people watch your show there. I'm like, but it makes me feel icky. And they're like, no, do it. So now I'm doing it.
Well, the practice of it, because that's part of self-sustaining, right? And that's part of being able to offer bigger and better things.
So yeah, I have so
just
many,
like you got comfortable reading, you're going to get comfortable with this promotion.
Yeah. And I have so many goals, so many awesome goals. And my big thing, like little things to get better equipment for the show and a better setup, because I'm doing it on my phone right now and everything. So I want to get a laptop, and I want to get a mic set. I want to get Zoom Unlimited. I call it Zoom Unlimited, but it's the Zoom where I can record and live stream on Facebook and all that stuff. And then I want to do the prizes or give money away to people, because why not? If you got the money, you should help others. That's my thing. And to do all kinds, I want to get a website. I want to do all kinds of stuff. I want to reach the world and have every poet's voice heard. Like I said, you never know who's watching. You never know who might stumble upon it. And I remember and I'm not taking the spotlight. I had Latif read for me.
I was going to say, I saw that.
There was an editor there who liked his work.
Oh, wow.
Because of the reading I was hosting, he has a book coming out now through
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, so, and it's wonderful, and he's brilliant, and he deserves it. And I hope it sells 1 million copies, because it comes out in September, October of this year, and when it comes out, I'm gonna shove it. But I'm your show, but we talk too much.
It's fine.
And that was the point of, you never know who's gonna be watching. And so if someone can get, someone sees someone and can grab them, and, they get like, that would be awesome.
No, I that's already a success story though. And so that's one of the things that you keep track of, John, because when you write a grant for this, you're going to retell that story, because that's why it matters.
And it's Stillhouse Press who's publishing his book. Sorry, I went brain dead.
Oh, I was going to ask. That's what I was asking. Stillhouse Press.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fantastic thing. But you're fantastic. And I'm so thankful you just letting me talk and not like, this is my show.
No, I love conversation. I came on here to, I was in the mood to talk about poets that we got to see and celebrate together. I think what you're doing is awesome. And I saw a part of Latif's reading on Facebook Live on your page. I thought he was fabulous. So I'm not surprised something really remarkable came of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be rooting for whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was during the reading I did, I think last year, when we had like 12 or 13 poets on together and did the big Zoom thing. Yeah, it was that one, and we only had like 6 or 7 or 8 shows, but it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. Yep. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
All right,
You can
so
read one final poem.
oh yeah, and then I'll ask a few more questions, and then you
Okay.
can read some of your poems and some more of their poems and all that good stuff.
Do you want to pick a number?
8.
8. That's my favorite number.
Because it's
2, 4.
7:28.
Yeah, that's perfect. So we get to go to Still Life with God by Cynthia Atkins. Remember her?
I love Cynthia. She's my buddy.
I love
She's
her.
gonna be on the show also.
Of course she is. I mean, she's perfect for that.
Soon everyone's gonna be on the show. I'm just gonna be like, when people talk to me, I'm like, oh, they're gonna be on the show. And, oh, they're gonna be on the show too.
That's how I felt about like the book launches. I was like, so I'm going to read her poem, God is a Wishing Well. And so she was another one who did a dual book launch, and Cynthia was just fabulous. I first saw her on Wednesday Night Poetry, and she was outside doing one of the poems, and it was so good. I was like, and then she mentioned her book coming out, and I was like, I've got to get her on the book launch. I didn't know her beforehand. God is a Wishing Well. Lit up in the parking lot of my heart, your shiny pennies in place of bullets. Spoiled plans fell off the wagon, false starts back to where the bones dwell with the petals. I swept salt, blood, ether, ink, a prayer. The sky shot fireworks and fireflies, pell-mell. Each stare was a blink. Each flight brought closure. Too much time spent with the wolf and the owl. I looked for answers in limp brochures. Trauma was my life in a gun shell. Foul I won't be a pogrom comet to burl the night. A time bomb by a bed of frill roses. The shadow of my echo was a kite. Wow. I really admire how she plays with words in so many of these poems. I mean, they just keep opening up doors as they go. Yeah, that's why I love reading other people's poems and celebrating like the range of voices. The only thing I do know is that obviously I can't read ahead and like how other people's poems in the same way I would like know my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure she would have done a better reading, but that was lovely to get to read from Still Life with God. And I love that picture of the cover.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
Yeah.
And one thing I like about the show that I've learned are people like some of the poets I've had I've never really talked to. So
Really?
so seeing them on Facebook just posting is one thing, but talking to them, their personalities come through and their voices come through, and it's been really fun to see like them, live and moving and stuff. And so that's been fun too, to see how they interact and how they talk about their poems and how they read their poems, because through words you only get one part, but when it's been really fascinating to see each person and how they read their poems and how they talk and stuff. So that's been
There's
fun.
a fullness to that experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we read the words on a page, we have a inclination, and there certainly is vibrations, and there is a map that the poet has laid down on the page by use of spacing and line breaks and stanza breaks if there are, and so there's a roadmap. But when somebody reads, everything comes together. I mean, it does in a very different way. So I'm not surprised you're loving that aspect.
Like and I want to talk about another person because I feel it's okay. I can talk about whatever I want to with you. Rosebud. I've only seen her post and read some of her poems, and then I've seen pictures of her. But then to hear her talk and hear her person and her sense of humor and how she is so brilliant, and to talk about the antimatter and to be so funny, and then from her talking to her reading her poems and how she just, when she reads her poems, and I mean this as a compliment, how she transforms and
Yeah.
starts reading her poems. I've never seen, like, she blew me away. I've never seen anyone like talk how she talks and be so funny and be so correct, charismatic, and then to read her poems and she turns into like this serious professional, like
Wow.
it was really cool to like that aspect
I'll have to
of
look back for that one because I missed that one. I don't think I saw that one.
when she talks and she's so funny, and then when she reads, like, I've seen her muscles and it was the coolest thing, and I don't mean anything wrong. Her muscles and her face like changed to when she
Yeah.
started reading her poems, and it was just wow, it was so cool.
I
And
don't know why you just reminded me of an experience. I saw Anne Waldman decades ago at Old Dominion University during one of the literary festivals when AWP used to be housed there. And she did this poem, but she had a dancer and the spotlight on the dancer's back. And the poem was about cancer. And the way this dancer was moving her back was just crazy. The muscles ripple. It was the way you described along the jawline, the change there. But her muscles were rippling and moving in a certain way, and it just fit the poem. So, I mean, Anne Waldman does, poems that are just brilliantly performed and spoken. But this dancer, the way it worked with the poem was amazing. I never forgot it. I mean, obviously, it's still in my head today.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was, and that was really cool, like with hers, and like with this hotel, I get to see things and pay attention, and she's so pretty too. She's so pretty. And I mean that in a nice way, because some people say people are pretty, but they mean it and isn't it rude or whatever. But she's so pretty, and it's just she has such a natural and she was wonderful, and I loved doing the show, and I love doing all the shows. But like with Rosebud, I've never talked to her before.
She was a new
never,
person to you.
yeah, and I've only followed her and read her poems and seen what she posts and stuff. So it
Now,
was
is
really
that one that's on YouTube or it's on your page? How could people find it?
Group page. I don't have YouTube yet. I want to.
You got to get that.
But yeah, it's one of the second, no, the first Zoom, the first one that goes into Zoom.
Okay.
So yeah, and she's
I think I missed that one.
She's really fascinating, and it was so much fun, and I was glad she agreed to, because she's super busy. She does all kinds of stuff, and it was fun. So and too, like it was one of the ones where I was nervous because I've never talked to her before and everything, and then it was like, but the 30 seconds into, I'm like, oh, she's fun. We're gonna have fun.
Yeah, well, it is a little bit different when it's somebody you haven't met, though. I know. I rarely got nervous, but I mean, occasionally, I would feel a little bit of nerves just because it was a poet I, deeply like respected and I wanted to go well.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, okay, this has to go good. And then, and then luckily in the first minute or two, you're like, oh wait, we can just be goofy and talk. And because she was talking about how she's like, I would really like to have some antimatter. She's like, but there's two problems. It costs a whole lot. And she's like, the earth could blow up. Just some of the things she said was just so funny. And I was just like, oh, this is great.
That makes you want to go look it up. So I'll have to do that. That's funny.
All right. So I know you have some books and stuff, but what poets inspire you?
Oh, heaven's sakes. I have so many. I have such a long list. But, I have to say, like, I'll go by what I'm obsessing with right now. Lucille Clifton. I mean, I always come back to her. I just think she's such a powerful poet. And I love her economy of words. I love the way I loved her feminist takes on things. I love the way that she would say something and it would seem here and then it would open up in layers. I was part of Furious Flower Poetry Center at James Madison University. I was on their advisory board, and it's for the promotion and the celebration of African American poetry. And we did 73 poems for Lucille Clifton's celebration of her life. Her daughters were there. And so we had 73 poems that were read by 73 different people. A lot of them were very famous poets, and some of them were not poets, and some people were, like me, a very, 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 very minor poet who happened to serve on the advisory board. And John, I have to tell you, what blew my mind is like I could have listened to another hour and a half of her poems read.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever enjoyed a poetry reading the same way I did this, because it had different, like Jericho Brown reading the poem about turning on the lights and killing the cockroaches. He was fabulous. Rita Dove read a poem. I mean, it was just poet after poet that I, think the world of, and they inhabited the poem so beautifully. So she's one that I deeply admire. Kai Coggins, right now, I'm really enjoying her latest book, and I didn't grab that book. I think I grabbed Incandescent. But so I go through phases where I just obsess on a poet and read over and over again the work. I'm trying to think, and one of the things I like about Facebook is that I get to keep up with who's got a new poem out. Lauren Camp, that woman's on fire. I mean, just on fire with her poetry. And I had her, of course, on the book launch, and then she did a workshop with us, just a smaller group, and it was very fascinating because I knew her mind thought like differently than mine, and that I could learn a lot from her. And I really liked her approach of adding other elements into the poem, which I would have never thought of. I have a certain way of approaching poetry, and it's nice to be jarred out of my, but this is the way we've always done it. It's nice to be jarred out of that, So that probably didn't answer your question, but I mean, as you can see, like this is my bedroom, and that's all my favorite poetry, and that's one layer, and then there's a second layer behind it, and I have them alphabetized, and I have everything from, oh heaven's sakes, I could probably look, The New Black, oh yeah, by Evie Shockley, fabulous poet. I loved her book, The Red Sea. And then Ellen Voigt, William Carlos Williams. I mean, I like a wide range of poets. I have a preference for female poets. I do.
Me too.
Do you see that? Yeah, that's fabulous, because a lot of people don't. Rita Dove.
Oh, sorry. I've noticed on my guest list, there's like a lot more women poets than there are men.
Good, because
I think out of the 10 episodes, Latif has only been the only male poet so far out of 10 episodes.
wow.
And I'm pretty sure I'm not
Thank you.
thinking wrong.
But thank you for for being aware of that, because Vita, who Amy King, I'm trying to think of Melissa
she's gonna be
Stutter.
on the show.
She's fabulous. But that whole group that was part of Vita was doing a count on the top 10 literary magazines publishing poets, and I mean the stats were pretty abysmal. The percentage of male to female poets, and I think holding people accountable and saying, look, some editors will say, well, we don't get a lot of submissions by women. That's just not true. I mean, I find that really hard to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that starts to shift things when we start to, much like why I think it's so important to have Furious Flower Poetry Center. I think we have to be not only aware of, who's at the table, ask the question, who's not at the table. And I heard another twist on that. The other question becomes, who made the table? Who made these rules?
I just want to say real fast, there was 2. Clayton Stevens was
okay.
So there's 2 guys and 8 girls so far.
Yeah, that's fabulous though. And of course, John, I'm not surprised that but so, that's something I would say, looking at my bookshelf, I definitely have a pretty strong preference for female voices. and I like reading poets of a lot of different, I definitely will say that I come to poetry for different reasons, right? So sometimes I come to poetry, because I want to be uplifted. That's an honest, true statement. I'm probably going to choose someone like Mary Oliver, or sometimes I want to be meditative and I have to say, that I come for different reasons. So Wendell Berry is, I might turn to for meditative. If I want to, to wake up or have a moment of like intensity or like something that challenges me, I'll reach for different poets. So I come to poetry for different reasons, and that's going to pretty much inform like who I turn to at that moment.
That answered your question beautifully. To answer your question,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I answered it. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's a wonderful answer.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I was just thinking about, another person who says poetry is what the heart wants when it's broken. That's why we read poetry at funerals and, when we're grieving. And it's also what we want when we celebrate. It's why poetry is read at weddings or at baptisms or at times of celebration. I mean, I think that there's a reason why, there's a reason why. And it's because it's powerful. It's powerful stuff. I was talking to a friend of mine who has been the writer in residency at Walter Reed Hospital, the VA, working with veterans, specifically, combat veterans. And she was talking about the process and how important it is. And it reminded me suddenly of when I was a rape crisis counselor in New Orleans. And I was working with girls and teens, and predominantly women. I have some male survivors that I worked with, but I wasn't doing a male survivors group. I was doing a women's survivor and a teen and a children's group. And I asked my supervisor, can I do a poetry therapy? Because I suddenly thought, I'd like to combine my loves. And, there was a couple poems out there, not many. Marge Piercy had a poem called The Rape Poem. Ellen Bass had co-written Courage to Heal with Laura Davis. And so there wasn't a lot of material out there, but I thought, I'd like to do this. And I wasn't going to bring out just, trauma poems, but I wanted poems with a lot of different voices. And the poetry therapy, I was going to run it for just 6 weeks. And it was so popular, we continued running it. And these girls ages 6 to 12 were writing incredibly powerful poems about a variety of things. And it had a way of, I don't know, naming the unnameable, or like how important it is that somebody speak their truth, and like hearing somebody speak their truth is so powerful. So, that to me, I wouldn't say every poem was art in the higher sense, but I would say every poem was powerful, and that if somebody had wanted to make it into art, they could have. But, we have different goals why we write.
Mm-hmm.
Not every poem I write is meant to see the light of day. Trust me on that one.
Some of my poems are in the basement under the stairs.
Yes. I mean, sometimes we got to keep our ugly babies at home for a while if we ever unleash them in the public.
This is your cubby hole. Stay here.
Exactly. I'll push you food and water. Just don't come out, and don't let the neighbors see you.
I don't even know I wrote you down on paper.
Right. Oh, so true, John. So true.
Oh
my God, it's almost 9 o'clock. Holy cow.
We've been having so much fun.
I didn't realize that. I'm so sorry.
This is gonna,
okay?
You will have the longest show so far. So yay. The first show with Woody was the longest, and you're gonna overtake that. So I think
oh my God.
I think mine and Woody's an hour. Woody's was like an hour and 45 minutes. So yours is gonna just sit on there.
I just suddenly looked up and was like, holy cow, I know you and I are both talkers though. I mean,
And this has been wonderful, and I hope
Yeah.
everyone who watches gets a lot of joy and laughter out of our ramblings, and then I hope they love all your answers, and I hope they learn a lot from you, but I hope they make it through to hear the
Right.
parts between our ramblings.
That we should have an abridged version or abbreviated version, like cut and paste.
Here's our 3-hour long show, and here's the important parts in 10 minutes. No?
Exactly, in case it's the cliff notes of videos.
Alrighty, so what is your next poetry project?
I'm slowly just, I find that after I publish a book, I have to refuel. And so I've written, a few things, but really I consider it my gathering stage. So nothing in the works.
And that's okay too, sometimes I was talking with someone on one of the shows and Shannon yesterday, and she was talking about how she takes moments and submits and then takes blocks of months to just write and be with her poems. And that's like with writing. Sometimes you write, and like with me, and then there's months where I just do nothing because I hate everything that comes in my head because I'm like, well, I've already wrote that, or I've read that, or that just sounds dumb. So I just do other stuff. I edit. Sometimes I'll just take and I'll just edit and look at poems I've already written and stuff.
That's what I've been doing, is I go back into my folders and folders and folders of abandoned poems. And if I feel like working on them, I do. But I have long periods of like what I call fallow fields. I'm just letting it rest. So.
All right. So I want to ask you one more question. Then we kind of talked about this with your magazine. But what are your thoughts on rejections? What are your thoughts when you get a rejection? How do you process it? What do you say? Do you have? We had someone who say every 10 rejections they get themselves a gift. So
I love that.
I know. I was like, I'm doing that now. That is brilliant.
My God, why didn't I think of it? I have never done anything like that ever. I'll say this. It depends on where I'm at. I go through periods where rejections are harder, particularly when I've written like really like close to the bone stuff. But it's also been helpful because sometimes rejections have me look back at a poem and see what's not working. And sometimes they just roll off my back and I just send it right out. So, it kind of depends on how I'm already feeling, but I think it's inevitable. Okay, so remember I was just talking about Marge Piercy? She sent a poem to Redheaded Stepchild, so she still gets rejections. So really, how worked up can we get about stuff? I would imagine even, I'm going to put it out there, Ted Cruz's probably had a rejection in the past 5 years, I think that it happens. Our former North Carolina Poet Laureate, the first female Poet Laureate they ever had, Kay Byers, sent me some poems for Redheaded Stepchild that had been rejected. So I don't know. It put it in perspective. And I know this much from being an editor. Don't take it personally, because I will tell you that there was somebody who joked that they were going to start a magazine called Bastards of Redheaded Stepchild that was only going to publish poems that we rejected. And it would have been a good magazine. It would have been a good magazine. So I know I thought about, like, they never did it. And I thought, would it be wrong if I did it? Like if I, spoofed myself? It'd be great.
That was, I didn't answer that question too, because I like to get everyone's personal reflection on it. But also, a lot of people, you only see them post their acceptance and they never post about rejection. So like when I was starting out, or anyone else, and you get rejection, it made me feel like, oh, my poems are bad.
Yeah.
Look at all these people getting all these acceptances and I can't get one. In reality, there's 100 rejections per one acceptance, and they do exist, just no one talks about them. So that's why I like.
Okay, it's important. So Galway Cannell, I think it was Galway who said, for every one acceptance, there's 10 other rejections. Like he gave some number, and I don't know why seeing him say that like made me feel like it was okay, but I was grateful that he talked about it. And there, I have seen in one of the groups on Facebook, like where they here's the rejection roll call, and people just put in like where they've been rejected recently. So those small pockets make it okay.
I'm in a group like that too. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think the group I'm in is called Submit Bitches.
Maybe that's the one I'm in.
And there's a lot of people post their rejections and stuff, but I like asking that just to show that everyone gets rejection. So if someone's watching this and they're not really out there and they're not communicative with poets yet, and they're getting brave enough to talk to poets personally or whatever, that they can see, there's been 50 shows, and every 50 all the 50 poets has had rejection, or 100 show, or 500 poets, whatever. That everyone, it's a part of writing, and it helps them, because it helped me once I learned that everyone gets rejections. And now I look at rejections like the breeze. The breeze comes and the breeze goes, and it'll be back, and it'll come 100 times. And rejections are like the breeze; they'll come and they'll go.
But can imagine, like what you're saying is context is everything. Knowing that you're not alone, knowing that this is part of the whole process, it's to be expected, makes us not take it to heart in the same way. And that's why I think we need to encourage newer writers, to hang in there, to keep doing it in spite of. Don't take that personally.
Yeah.
So,
So thank you. All right. So the floor is all yours. Read all your poems. No.
I'm going to read them all fast. I'm going to read one word from each poem, and let's see what we got. I will read a poem. I don't know why this is marked, so I'm going to read it since it's marked. That's funny. I have 2 poems marked, and I don't remember doing this. That's so funny. Well,
I just want to say too, before or after the poem, you can talk about the poem, or say something about it or whatever. You just don't have to read. You can talk in between poems too.
Thank you. I tend to do that, and I know a lot of people say don't talk too much. I'm like, have you seen me? I'm going to read this poem, How I Got Red Hair as a Child. The first ghost I met said she could extinguish me like a candle flame. A single gust and I'd be gone. I learned to breathe light into every cell of my body by holding my breath until I could hear a roar in my ears like I'm a forest fire, until I felt lit, until I could say, I dare you. I was just, thank you. The last time I read this poem, my hair was purple. And as I was saying it, I realized it's so weird how I got red hair as a child. And I don't have how I got purple hair as an adult. I don't have that poem yet.
I remember when you had purple hair. It was wonderful.
I loved it. It got a little high maintenance, and it was the shampoo in my it was like it was just a color depositing shampoo, but my whole shower was purple, and I was like, I am so done, so done with this. So back to red. I was like, the whole back, and I was bleaching it. I said, this is ridiculous. So now my eldest daughter has purple hair, and I sent her the purple shampoo. I'm like, good luck. I probably should have sent you Clorox too. And the youngest has, blue-black hair. It's blue in the light and black in the, it's so funny. I just, the greatest joy in my life has been being a mom.
When I had hair, I used to have blue hair.
I could see, blue would be really good with your coloring. Yeah.
I had a mohawk. I had a blue mohawk. It was really cool.
I love it. Totally down for that.
And now if I get a mohawk, have to be like this. Just just.
Come on now, aging, like is a whole nother ball of fun stuff.
It'd be like instead of a comb over, it'd be a comb up.
Come in, fold in. Yeah. Why that just reminded me, but my first mohawk, I think I was like 16. Like this is, back in the way. I was like probably 1982. And my friend was like, "Oh, we're gonna just, give you like a closer like cut in your shortcut." And then like I felt it and I was like, that feels like more than just like a little close. That feels really, really close. And then I heard this. Then she said, "I have to even up the other side." And again, it felt super close. And then she said, "I think you're going to like it." I go look in the mirror and I'm like, a mohawk. And I went to a private school. Yes, that had like a lot of rules. And so they said, that is an unacceptable haircut. You're going to have to comb it down. So, I mean, it was short. So combing it down, I looked like freaking Mo from the Three Stooges. My hair slicked down. I mean, it was horrible. I was like, do I have to do this until it grows out? And they said, yes. I was like, this is
ridiculous.
Yeah. What does my hair is cut? I mean, it's not interfering with somebody's education. It's not like, it's not like it was 10 feet tall and blocking the,
like
the blackboard.
Peacock mohawk thing.
Exactly. Like instead of a mohawk, I have a peacock. It's just a full man. Yeah. So funny things. Well, I'm gonna. We did it. It's 9:00. You've got to be exhausted.
You've only read one poem.
Okay, you want me to read another one? Seriously? Okay.
I figured you was gonna read like 5 or 6 or 7.
It's like that's one from me, one from other people. Okay, then I'll read the other one that I had oddly marked.
All right.
These are my transgressions. These are not the full list. Obviously, I have other transgressions. I've eaten brunch with a lesser saint wearing a horseshoe halo and plucked the elderflower from his hand. I've worn a shadow to a wedding and sunlight to a wake. I've forgotten that every blink's a funeral and suffered a momentary loss of light. Born of salt, slanted light, and wind stirring stars into the river, I still see my face in water fountains. I've transfigured a necklace of bees into red flowers and turned wine into water. I'm a clanging bell, the lost left shoe, the dirt road through deep woods leading home. I think about the origins of poems, and I remember the origin of that poem was the reversal of miracles, so instead of turning water into wine, turning wine into water, and how there's something so wrong about being sober in a world that expects you to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
so much doing poetry readings, like, and people are their own. I don't drink, but I go to poetry readings, and they're just the first 10 minutes they're sharing, I'm drinking this alcohol and I'm drinking, and I'm just like, we're all at home, like, okay, but like people can do as they wish, but it's just it's crazy about how much alcohol comes into people's daily lives.
And I think that's, that rumination is where that started, and it's funny that that's now a transgression. I mean, the irony is that my transgressions of my early years were my alcohol and drug addiction, and that my later transgressions are that I don't, It's weird.
Like when I was at where I knew more people in a reading, they'd be like, I'm drinking this, I'm drinking that. I'm like, I'm drinking milk.
And that's obscene.
Good old cup of milk.
Right? Oh, that's right. Okay, so this is the other poem that this began as a dream. The title is The Dream of Endless. The ghost wants me to feel something, a hallway of chilled air or the brush of his hand along my back. He's walking backwards through the rooms again as if he can unwind time. I tell him I left hope in the snake tree and tied my shoelaces to the ivy along a dirt path where I learned the psychology of knives and their single word, cut. And that dream originated with a tree full of snakes. And then someone saying, what is the meaning of a knife? And I woke up going, well, I'm going to have to think about that one because I was going through a divorce. Right?
I can see my husband under that tree of snakes. Died.
Oh gosh.
Freaking out.
Yeah, I was going to say, so how many have primal fears of snakes?
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is be like, Josh, look at that snake. Oh, it's all over what he's done for. That's funny. There's one day we were driving home and
I said, that's it. That's all he heard was snakes
all
and
you
he's
gotta
gone.
do. There doesn't even need to be a snake. One day that we're driving home and it was dark and right before we pulled in our driveway on the road, there was a snake, a real snake. And I love all animals, and so I was gonna move the snake out of the road, and so I'm trying to grab its tail area, and it's jumping at me. It is angry. It's ticked off at whatever. So I'm just like, I'm trying to help you. So Josh leans out the window and he's like, that thing's gonna bite and kill you.
Oh my God, the poor baby.
And I'm like, and the snake's this big, you know. So I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not, you know, it's little. I'm like, it's not gonna kill me. So I went and got a stick and let it crawl up the stick and moved it because I was uncertain because it was kind of dark. Because
I was going to say, with it being little like that, John, I will pick up a black snake that's larger or that, you know, I can tell is non-poisonous, but we had a small snake in the house that I actually had some concern about because I couldn't identify it. It was too little.
Yeah, I didn't know what kind it was, and we do have poisonous snakes around here.
Yeah.
So I went and got a stick and moved it and stuff because I was, you know, not going to let it bite me just in case, because they say smaller snakes don't have their control yet, so they'll just unload.
That's what I've heard too.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard too. So they can be just as venomous as an adult. So I have that fear too. So we had a snake that was out in the front room, and I just closed the door and just said, this room's dead to me for a while because it was a big one and I could not get it out. Like it was along the window frame. And I was like, I am not messing with him. He seemed really irritated.
When we looked at this house and before we bought it, we were looking at it, and there's like a little trap door in the wall, and it goes to the water pipes. And it was me, Josh, Mama,
Cool.
the realtor lady. And they opened it up, and there's a snake skin in there. Not even the snake skin.
Okay, just the skin.
Yeah, just the skin. All three of them ran out the house. Like they just see the Godzilla-sized snake that was chasing after them. If there was if they could, they would have probably ran through the walls to get out. It was great. I'm just like, what are y'all going through? It's not even a real snake.
Yeah. Okay, so I creep people out that I actually use snake skin in a lampshade that I made out of, it was because when you shine, so it's made out of paper bag and wax. You use white paraffin wax to make it rigid. I don't have it in here. I was trying to see if I had one of them in here. You can see one in the background, that roundish thing, and it has like a robin printed picture, but I put the snake skin in there, and so when the light shines through, it's got the patterning.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, it makes me happy.
Their reasoning was, well, there's a snake skin, so there's a snake somewhere in here. I'm just like, oh Lord.
I was gonna say he came in and he left. That's called leaving.
Yeah.
They oftentimes do that because there's more moisture in a house, and when they're molting or shedding, it's easier to peel off if there's a little bit more humidity. So, yeah. Yeah,
So
no, I
cool.
don't have that same fear. I like snakes. I like most
love
animals, but
them.
like I said, I won't pick up one I can't identify.
Yeah, I love snakes. Snakes are amazing, and it fascinates me how they can climb and stuff since they
Right?
don't have toes or feet, or how they can.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing, and
That
there's
to me
probably
is like,
scientific reasoning, all that good stuff. But it's like how clouds float fascinate me, and and I know there's reasoning and there's purpose, blah blah blah, but it's still fascinating.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. So to me, it's still mind blowing. And
Mhm.
I watched one that was down in the, where the chickens are, and it quickly realized that was not a safe place to be. So it went up on a tree, and then it was crawling along a branch and going to another branch. And to me, that's pretty fascinating how they can do that.
Yeah,
Yes. So no, I don't get that.
'cause I got hands and feet, and I barely can climb a tree.
True story. True story. So I was gonna okay, I'll read another one. So the one of the chapters in the Stumblefields is a catalog of ghosts, and I think that all of us have our obsessions that recur in writing. For me, for a period of time, it was ghosts, literal ghosts, like people who had passed, figurative ghosts, things that are haunting us, stuff that all of us carry. So it kind of moves between the real ghost and figurative ghost, or literal and kind of imagined. So this one's like he never left. The ghost says, I brought you flowers, and holds his hands full of nothing. But I smell gardenias in my living room where the dead certainly shouldn't be. But here he is, and he wants to know what's new and how have you been? I say, aren't you omniscient by now? I mean, shouldn't you know already? He says, there you go again, expecting me to mind read. Then we're arguing, and it's like he never left. When he leaves the room, I say to myself, be quiet, or the ghost will hear you cry. What's interesting to me, this poem, it kind of surprised me. A friend of mine was in a bereavement group for widows, and that poem resonated with her like he never left. And she took it like, she even asked another friend of mine, was I a widower? And I think grief, it's interesting what people bring to a poem and what we intend in a poem. And that's where I would say our poems are oftentimes have separate lives, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm sure you've been surprised to find out, somebody read a poem of yours and saw all this, and you said, well, that's not what I
Uh-huh.
did,
That's
right?
one thing I love about poetry too, is like I'll write a poem and someone will read a poem and see something totally different. And I love interpretation. I love hearing how my poems grew. And they're like, oh, this poem's about. I'm like, well, no, but awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's what I always say. No, but
Wow.
yay. I mean, that's awesome. That's amazing.
That is so cool. I never
Yeah,
in a
it
million
is.
years thought about that before.
Yes. So I love that aspect of poetry. It's a little bit like how we bring something into the mix. There's the intention, there's energy underneath of that, there's the unintended, and then there's the perceived. All that's fascinating. All right, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank
Are you
you
gonna read
so
another
very
one?
much. Nope, I'm gonna say you have a fabulous night, John.
You
It was so
too.
good to talk to you for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been so much fun. And thank you for coming and reading and
Good day.
talking. Yeah. And thank you everyone for coming to watch. And I hope everyone had as much fun as we did. And remember,
Yay.
invite everyone that you know to the show and to the group. And thank
And to
you.
support the ambitions of the JoJo Show. Be well.
Bye.
Love you, John. Go squeeze Mojo.